Welcome to Season 3 of the Casual Camping Podcast, your home for the best camping discussion both in and out of the field. Here are your hosts, Tim and Ade.
Oh my God, Ade. Oh my God.
Are we doing an intro?
No, I'm too scared. Too scared to do an intro. We are in the field, so we're recording live, and we're hunkered down, aren't we?
It is proper hunkered down. The wind started at about 8 this morning, and we're on the top of a ridge. Yeah. We've got a fantastic view, and this is the danger of being in an exposed area, I guess, when the wind gets up.
Yeah, we are properly exposed. So we're up in Northumberland, and it's entirely my fault. I picked the site without really knowing much about it. It's a beautiful site, and we have got an incredible sea view. But boy, the wind is blowing, and we well, people have left the site. Another group have just gone, and it's inside the tents. To be honest, it's a little bit scary.
It really is. I've not sat in here. We've come in to get out of the wind so that we can record this, and it's a lot of creaking. I've lost one of the attachments that hold my tent down this morning. My little cook station has blown over 2 or 3 times. Plates have gone off any direction. I'm sure I've leaving a trace, but where the hell that trace is, who knows? It's halfway down the field.
Yeah, it's so we knew it was going to be windy. So today was going to be the windy day, and I think it was forecast for 20, 30 mile an hour winds, with gusts up to 45 miles an hour. And boy, do you feel those gusts when they hit. It's, I'm a bit worried about my tents. You like to say, your tent's, it's torn off, a corner attachment, hasn't it? Yeah. Did your awning on the front, did it blow off or did you take it down?
It blew off. So, yeah, my square Robin's tent... that has stood up okay, but the awning caught by a gust of wind, toppled my cook station, toppled my stove inside the tent. So thank God that wasn't on. Otherwise, I'd have scorched everything. Tent would be ruined. So, but yeah, it is a learning curve, isn't it? Sometimes are we hardy or are we stupid? You just have to make those calls when you're out in the field, Tim.
And I know which side most of our listeners will be saying we are. They'll definitely be down on the side of we're stupid.
I think on the socials this week, Joe, hello Joe, long-time listener, you crazy person, but she made the right decision. She said, I think I'm going to give it a miss. Yeah. I didn't want to not give this a miss. You know me, I'm always like, yeah, maybe they've got the weather wrong. They didn't get the weather wrong. I'm hoping that they've got when it stops right.
Yeah. It's I'd kind of hoped that they hadn't really got, because the weather here in the UK, they tend to overestimate and they be a bit overcautious. But they've kind of got it spot on so far. It is, at the moment, it's not raining. It's glorious sunshine, and we're going to need some suntan lotion. But the wind is just howling, and to the point that we really want to go down the beach today, but we can't leave the tents because you can't go away because you just don't know what you're going to come back to. It could be completely trashed, couldn't it?
Yeah. There's miles and miles of beautiful white sandy beaches that we can see from this vantage point. It's absolutely lovely. Yeah. Even the drive up, once you, Newcastle, Northumberland are brilliant anyway. I love them so much. The people, but the rolling hills from the A1 is beautiful. If anybody's not been here, I think, it really is underestimated because people go, oh, we'll go to Cumbria or we'll go to the Lake District or all of those things. Whereas The rolling hills from the A1 was beautiful. I couldn't wait to get here and get set up. You have picked a really beautiful, picturesque site.
It's stunning. It's stunning. And as you say, the rolling hills, we've got views of these massive long stretches of pristine beaches that they've got up here with nobody on. And actually from the tents we can see right across to Lindisfarne, to Holy Island, and out into the North Sea. It's absolutely stunning, but the wind just means that we can't go and enjoy any of it at the moment, because it's just a bit bonkers. But let's talk through what equipment we have brought and whether or not that was the right equipment to bring, I suppose. So you said you brought your square Robins. We're sat in it now. It's flapping and creaking like mad, but I think yours is doing really well because it's got a really rigid steel frame to it. It's got steel poles at either end and a steel ridge pole, which I think it's definitely paying dividends for you.
Yeah, I mean, it weighs a ton because it is steel rather than aluminium, but it is anchoring the whole thing down and keeping its shape. So while it's flapping, and I don't know whether you can hear it, but it's really, really gusty. It's like the whole tent is breathing. Yeah. It's like we're in lungs or something. But last night we were here and we've got windbreaks, which we corralled the fire with. We've taken all those down and started to try and protect the tents just from damaging and whatever else. I think if it was any windier than it is now, we'd have started packing up.
I totally agree. And actually, when you're in the tent, it feels worse than when you're outside. And certainly in my tent this morning, so I brought the 4-meter bell tent, which the geometry of my 4-meter bell is it stands taller than other 4 meters. So it's a really tall tent, and it's really catching the wind. And in there, I was thinking, I've got to take this down. This is going to get wrecked. But as you say, we came out and we got the windbreaks, and we've repositioned those to be on the windward side of each of the tents, just to be a proper windbreak, to save the tents. And it has made a massive difference actually to mine, just to buffer, take the brunt out of a lot of the wind. But if it was doing any more than this, I'd be pulling it down and we'd be packing up to go, to be honest, because it's, you've got to be sensible, haven't you?
Well, sometimes, yeah.
You haven't started drinking yet, though, today, so.
So, yeah, I think, you can never know what the weather's, weather forecasts and everything else. You sometimes find yourself in this kind of predicament. We were more scared of rain ruining the weekend. Yeah. It's a long weekend. It's a bank holiday here in the UK. So, you've been here. You're going to be here for 5 nights. I'm here for 3. Sometimes these things just come out of nowhere. They weren't expected. So what do you do, Tim, when, you're going onto a site? I tend to look for a nice corner bit, maybe a bit protected from winds and things like that, maybe a little bit away from everybody else so that I can cut loose with my colourful language if I want to.
Yeah, you see, I got here first, and I didn't follow any of those rules. So I looked at the pretty view and thought, that's what I want to open my tent to on a morning. But I happen to be in the most exposed part of this site, right on the edge of the hill. Thankfully, the wind's not coming up right into the tent, into the doorways. Otherwise, I would have definitely had to move it because it would have just ballooned it up. But it's coming off the land and going out to sea. But yeah, ideally, we should have. There are a couple of pockets on this site that are protected by sort of rocky outcrops, aren't there? And there's no wind at all there. And we really should have thought about that and camped in there. But to be honest, they weren't big enough for the number of tents that we've had here, because we've had a few people come and go, and we wouldn't have been able to fit them all in. This is really the only spot that we could have fit all of these people in together. So, but ordinarily, yeah, try and find the most sheltered bit. it's about being prepared, isn't it? You know, yes, the weather forecast, they often get it wrong, but they've got it right this time. And but I do feel like, you know, we've brought a load of windbreaks. You've got one, I've got one. Our mate Darren has brought two. It's your stove moving.
Yes.
Oh my word!
Yeah, it's rocking back and forth as the wind's moving the tent and stuff. It's crazy. We are well prepared, and that wasn't a criticism of the pitch that you've got, because that's always the thing, isn't it? You know, you turn up one day and it can be the best pitch, and the following day it can be the worst pitch, depending on the weather that you're getting, and that can change. Yesterday, the wind changed 3 times, so you know. We're sort of going with the flow and trying to protect. We're going to stay around. We're making sure that our guy lines are out and taut. Thank God this is happening this morning, because if this had been last night, it'd have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
We'd have been in cars probably, just packed up and thrown everything in, and that's it.
Very, very true, actually, because things are always much, much worse in the middle of the night. And if things are starting to fall down and the weather's getting bad, you're far more inclined to call it and just wrap it all up, whatever the weather, throw it in the car and disappear home. It's because it's happening in the daytime. We can kind of see where the tents need support, where they need looking after, and prepared to, you know, give it a few more hours, really. I can't believe the wind is moving your tent, because your tent stove is double the size of mine. Mine was moving around because the wind was catching the chimney, and I shortened the chimney by 2 sections of pipe just to drop it down, and it was still moving my stove. So I brought in a massive piece of stone and sat it on top of my tent stove just to weigh it down. And then I thought, actually, that's thermal mass. So last night when I had it burning, it heated up the stone on top, and the stone stayed warm much longer than after the fire had gone out. So actually, it was a good idea. But I've done it to stop the stove from being tipped over. It's crazy wind.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I think it's the one thing that, you know, if it's raining or whatever, you've got, you know, rain protection, waterproofing, cotton tents, whatever those things are, you know, generally, unless it's really siling, you know, your tent will stand up to it. Wind, it's pulling it at all directions, you know. Are your guy lines tight? Are they too tight? Are they going to get ripped off?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you've just got to be really on guard a little bit.
Yeah. And that, you know, you said a second ago that are your guy lines tight, but there's a school of thought that actually you should have them ever so slight, you know, not slack, but just slightly. There needs to be a bit of give in it, so that when the wind pulls, it's not gonna rip things out. It's but because the wind keeps changing, like you say yesterday, the wind just kept changing direction, and so you were literally moving around the tents, making sure stuff was okay on all sides. It's a real adventure, this camping trip. It wasn't quite what we had in mind when we kind of said, oh, let's go north and meet a load of mates and sit in a field, have a few beers, go out and about, go down the beaches and stuff. But it is what it is, and we're going to persevere. And whoa, that was a big one. Yeah. Oh, it's like proper hitting me in the back of the head.
Wow.
From here, it's literally like someone's outside the tent hitting me in the head.
Yeah. Let's hope this tent survives. You can't get it anymore, so yeah. Oh, I hope it doesn't rip anymore. The little thing that came off is in one of the corners. It's sewn on. It's come off cleanly. I hope it's not ripped the tent. It's the stitching that's come undone. Yeah. So it'll go back on. I'm just hoping that the rest of it survives. We've got about 4 hours worth of this.
I know, and then it's going to drop down to about, I think, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds with gusts of about 20. But we can cope with gusts of 20 because at the moment we're gusting at 40, 45, and that's all. It's all a bit scary because we're literally, we're perched on top of a hill, and and it's really cool. it'll be an adventure to talk about in the future, but just thought it'd be an interesting, probably a more interesting episode than we were maybe going to do.
Yeah, I think, it doesn't matter how long you've been camping or whatever. What are the things that you can do? So choose a good site, have a look at the weather, see what that's going to do. Make sure you've got plenty of guy lines. There's a lot of times I don't even put guy lines out. I need to with this tent because it holds the sides out at the angle that they're supposed to do. But if I was in like a little two-man tent, I can't remember the last time I used the guy lines for them because they're so hunkered to the ground.
Yeah.
I'd be using them today, but that's the thing. The weather will tell you, it'll give you an inkling whether or not it's accurate or not, but it'll tell you roughly what's going to happen. Pay attention to it, and where you're pitching on that site. There's some lovely, if you go and pitch up and have a look at sites there's some great ones that are by the sea, overlooking some cliff, whatever it is. And I've always kind of chosen against them because I think windy is out. It's just going to be so windy. Gosh.
That's another big gust.
Its tent might not survive.
Oh, man. I hope it does because it's a beautiful tent. Yeah, the last time I went camping at the coast was to Shell Island in Wales. And I knew the weather was going to turn bad the following day. So we camped in the dunes, in the sand dunes there, between big sand dunes. And we were really sort of hunkered down. And we were absolutely fine. We didn't have any of the wind affect us at all. But when we went out on a morning just to walk around the site, everyone who was in the main camping field, there were literally tents that were shredded. Poles were snapped. People looked a little bit in shock, to be honest. They'd camped up there right on the top to see the view, and they'd paid the price. I just hope I made that silly mistake for us on this one, but we're doing all right so far, and we've only got a couple of hours left of it, so we'll see what happens. But like you say, this would be perfect for my little North Face Big Fat Frog, semi-geodesic, shaped like so the wind passes right over it. It'd be cracking on this, but I brought a 4-man bell tent that stands about 9 foot tall, so it's catching the wind like a sail at the moment.
But I think the beauty is your recent purchase of a really tall windbreak. That's saving your tent something brilliantly. And I've I've got eyes on maybe trying to make something myself of similar kind of thing. I think you can get, just go out there and buy them. But I'm thinking, I might have a go at making a little windbreak.
I think that's a really good idea. Because actually, my windbreak's great. I bought it at one of the shows recently. We talked about it a couple of times, and we put it on socials. And it's a really tall windbreak, which is great. And it's longer than most and taller than most. So at the moment, it's kind of wrapping around the windward side of my bell tent, and it's really protecting the tent from the worst of the wind. I love the fact it's got proper thick guy ropes that go on either side of it, and it's really holding it up against the wind. But yeah, I would definitely say try and either buy or make something similar. And you were talking about putting guy lines in the middle of the poles as well, which good idea.
Yeah, because we've got a mixture of your lovely, was it Quest Odyssey or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Quest Odyssey. It's about 1.5 meters tall, so taller than the average bear. And then we've got some very cheap, get them in the middle aisle of Aldi, kind of beach kind of things. And actually, they've not stood up. We're also on quite rocky ground, so getting them anchored has been quite difficult. Yours comes with guy lines. We've actually put and attached guy lines to try and stabilise the other ones. It's not really worked. So yeah, we're just keeping an eye on everything and hoping that, those gusts abate soon.
Yeah. The ground is super hard, isn't it? I mean, we're on a rocky outcrop. It's an ancient Iron Age hill fort. I'm really glad I brought my Snow Peak tent pegs, because they're 30 centimetre long steel pins essentially, and I've needed them to anchor everything down. Some of the other tents that are here, they've just got sort of normal, the tent pegs that come with the tent, and they're a lot of them are bent. I'm really pleased I brought my Snow Peak ones, because you get what you pay for, and for weather like this, they are holding everything to the ground at the moment. They're doing really well.
Yeah, I had that thought after I'd packed my car. So I was still at home and I could have thought, shall I just go get that? And I thought, no, actually, I've been quite happy with the tent pegs that the Robins put in. I've got some V-shaped steel ones. They're quite robust, really quite sturdy, as well as some aluminium with the kind of crook handle kind of thing.
Yeah, they're quite thick, those, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like the cheap ones, they're quite thick.
Whereas I've bent a few of them now, so they're going to be dead to me, Tim. They are dead to me. I am going to throw them away when I get home. But similarly, I was talking about the poles for the tent, that I could lighten the tent a little bit by putting in aluminium poles. Today's thing has made me go, I'm sticking with them.
Yeah.
Steel, better than aluminium every day of the week.
I wouldn't be changing that at all, Ed. I mean, the main thing that's keeping my tent up at the moment is the 3 meter steel pole that's in the middle of the bell tent. It's if it was anything else, and I know some bell tents even have a wooden one, that would have snapped in this. I wouldn't be changing your steel poles for anything.
Yeah, no, me either. It's very blustery. It's been buffeted out of all shape. But it's sticking up. Nothing else has ripped. Yeah, I don't know what else to do other than just keep an eye on stuff and make sure that the tent pegs that are in are staying in, are not being pulled out. Because that's the thing. Why we can't disappear anywhere is you've just got to keep an eye on things. Because if one thing comes out, we were at the Bush Crash show this time last year, and I remember coming back to our tent and somebody's tarp had fallen down, and it was just flapping around, scattering things underneath it. Would have done quite a lot of damage, and somebody came along. Don't think it was us, but we were going to do, but somebody came along and fixed it. And that's the thing. It just does such a lot of damage. I'm glad I was sat under my tarp when it went over, because it's also got a ridge pole that attaches to the front of this tent, and it caught the wind, it ripped out the guy line and the stakes, it knocked everything over and took my stove with it. So could have been danger if that had happened last night. So I went to bed, got the stove on, nice and drifted off to sleep.
Oh my word.
Yeah. Ah!
Oh God, Ade. Blow my neck.
So yeah. So the other lesson really is if you've got a tent stove. So I've got, I've added to my stovepipe, I've got a wind deflector on the top of the stove. I have the little tie-out bits on it, but I don't have any guy line or some attachments that won't burn to that. So you really need to secure that. Like, my fire's not on, it won't go on today until that wind's gone. But next time I'm going to go home and make sure that I've got some guy lines for that and make sure that I do attach it, just in case this happens.
Yeah, I've made exactly the same plan. My stovepipe, even without these massive gusts, it was blowing around something rotten, so I shortened it down by a couple of sections of pipe just to give it a bit more stability. but I've got the attachments at the top to run some guy lines off, and I haven't brought any guy lines for it. So I am going to make sure that in my my tent stove bag there's some extra guy lines in there for this eventuality, because it not only will it secure the tent stove, actually, because the stove passes through the wall of, or the roof of the tent on both yours and mine, it actually stabilizes the tent a little bit as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good idea to do that. I will absolutely be doing that when I get home. But yeah, should we pause it here, see what happens with the weather, and restart recording when either it calms down or it gets worse and we've packed up? And so we'll give you. Let's go for a break, and we'll come back in a few moments and let you know what's happened to us, or if there's nothing else, then obviously we just died.
It's a sad story, Tim. Thanks for listening.
All right then, Ed. It's a bit later in the day. We're probably about 6 hours since we were recording earlier. What's the wind doing now?
Still blowing. I'm hacked off with the damn thing. Wind is one of the only things that you can't really protect against. And as we were saying earlier, we're just in an exposed place. So, it's dropped a little bit. It keeps on gusting back. It doesn't feel as bad as it was earlier, but I'm still hacked off with it.
I'm pissed off, and I'm not bleeping that out. It's you can't see wind, you can't do out about it. We've done the best we can. You probably can't hear any of this because it's howling around us. We decided to pack up in the morning and get away. We've cracked some beers because it's the only way we're going to get through tonight. But I think we'll have to pick this up back in the studio when you could probably hear what we're saying.
Pardon? So, Tim, our equipment is better than we think. It didn't pick up any of the wind, and the dramaticness of having my tent bellow almost inside out with us in there going, we're scared for our lives. And it didn't really pick it up.
No, it's amazing, isn't it? When I got it back and put the memory card into the laptop, and it's like, I can't hear any wind on any of that. And we were genuine. It sounds like we've kind of made it up. But,
for dramatic effect.
Yeah, we were proper. Well, we weren't scared, but we were pretty nervous, to be honest. We were pretty nervous about what was happening. It's
Well, as Laird sent through this week on the socials, I think we were both sat there with some big girly blouses on. But the stress and strain of sat by a tent and by our windbreaks and just seeing things buffeting, and the stress of that day that'll stay with me for a long time, to be honest. It really will.
Well, it was bonkers, wasn't it? And if you were in the tent, it was like 50 times worse than being outside, because the whole tent was moving. My bell tent was literally moving. There's a 9-foot steel pole running straight up in that, and it was just moving and moving. And I've got videos of it, so we'll stick it on socials this week. But it's and then you go outside the tent and you're just forever checking guy lines, forever checking the windbreaks, and just moving round and moving round. And did it ruin the camping trip? A bit of yes and no, really, because certainly there was stuff we wanted to go and do.
Yes,
but
I
couldn't leave.
Yeah, you just couldn't leave. I didn't see the glorious beaches of Northumberland, so I will be coming back. But I mean, I've got a tent that needs semi-fixing. Thankfully, there was no ripping in the fabric. But the tie-down corners, the stitching of that came off. That actually meant that the tarp fell down as that gust of wind took the tarp and ripped it out, and then also pushed my stove over.
Yeah.
So thankfully it was all caught. But if my stove had been on, there'd have been a lot of canvas that had touched a very hot stove and a pipe, and yeah, ruined
Yeah.
tent.
Yeah.
So
Totally ruined
lesson
tent.
learned. Lesson learned.
Gosh. To be honest, we joke around and we say quite often every camping trip teaches you something for the next one. Boy, oh boy, have we learned some lessons.
Oh my God. I mean, they do say every day is a learning day, and wind is the thing that, I mean, I've said it earlier on this, camping in an open space, you do take the risk of very windy days. We knew it was going to be windy. We were still there. We had the glorious view. That evening, from about 6 o'clock, the wind dropped and we had a glorious evening. Really
Yeah.
bright stars, a big fire going. Tim got a bit sort of punchy because he was on the rum.
Oh man, I was mixing. I was on the beer, I was on the rum. I'd taken some whiskey, and really, I just needed putting to bed. And
uh, Honestly, two of us carried you to bed.
yeah, I don't remember
You didn't
that.
you didn't want to go, but you were laughing and smiling and giggling and stuff. You just like it was all a big game. So, but
Yeah.
it was a lovely. What do they say? The calm after the storm, or is it before the storm? It was
So,
after anyway.
well,
This way.
yeah, well,
That's maybe the way the Geordies do it.
they have a Barney, and then everything calms down. To be honest, I had the calm before because the day I got there and had the day, well, actually two days really. I had a day on our own, just me and Alex, and then Laura and Elsie arrived on the second day, and we had two good days. We managed to get off and go to Holy Island with Laura and Elsie, which was great. But
Hmm.
then literally from that night it got cold, it got windy. We called it quits early on, and then the wind never actually stopped the entire rest of the camping trip. But
Yeah.
that one day it just and it was forecast. Let's not pretend that we didn't know it was coming. We knew it was going to be 40, 45 mile per hour gusts,
Yeah.
30, 35 mile per hour winds with sort of 45 mile per hour gusts. We knew that was coming, but we thought we've come a long way. And this camping trip had been a long time in the planning, and it's quite difficult to get that number of people in one place because we've all got busy
Mhm.
lives. So we kind of went for it, but it's
I think what is really interesting is there was a lot of tents up on that hill. So,
mm,
there was four in our group. There was a couple from another couple of either bell tents or a pyramid tent.
mm,
And actually, I think mine probably came off worst, my
yeah,
Robins,
yeah,
whereas yours stood up. Laura's, which was just a semi-geodesic tent.
it was a Berghaus tunnel tent,
Yeah,
like a four-man Berghaus tunnel tent.
yeah.
Um,
With those poles, but it had supporting straps inside. So I would have thought that
yeah,
would have beveled out a little bit with the wind gusts, and it didn't.
no,
I mean,
I
granted, we got that down before the worst of it because she left on the Sunday,
yeah,
mainly because of the wind. So sorry to see you go, Laura. You were thinking about staying another day.
yeah,
Um, and also Hammer's tent. I
mm,
mean, like, he must be so chuffed with that because it stood up like everybody else's. And yet, actually, just brilliant. Just goes to show the power of the pyramid tents, that central pole
yeah,
guying stuff out. The other ones that we saw, they were bigger than our tents, both of them.
mm,
I think there was one that was maybe a 5 or 6 meter bell on that
yeah,
windy day. And that stayed up brilliantly. And although the other people that were there, they took theirs down and went, which was probably sensible. But theirs was standing up to it really, really well too.
I and I think that's the thing. So the nature of a bell tent or a TP tent is you're pegging 360 degrees and with one central pole. So although it's not like a north face full geodesic dome, actually you've got 360 degrees of control of your tension.
Yep.
And interestingly, there was because we were right on top of a hill. Um, Again, my fault for picking that site, but it was an Iron Age hill fort. Come on, how many times do you get to do that? Camp on something that's thousands of years old. It's
Yeah.
But there was a couple who had a 4 meter bell tent and put it up at the bottom of the hill, just near the car park, and it didn't fare well at all. I mean, they didn't put it up very well. It wasn't very even. It didn't look like it had the guy lines put out properly, to be honest. And when the wind really hit, they actually took it down. I was walking past at the point that they took the pole out, the central pole out, and a big gust of wind went in through the front door and ballooned the entire thing up. And somebody just literally jumped in the air, dived on it, and held it all down. And they were laughing. So I thought, well, they're having fun. I mean, it's like a massive bouncy castle at that point, but it was going to go. It was absolutely going to go. But yeah, the ones on the hill. So my bell tent did really, really, really well. I have to say I'm super grateful for Snow Peak tent pegs because I've replaced all of my tent pegs on all of my tents. I just have one bag of tent pegs. So whatever tent I'm taking out, I take that bag of tent pegs, and they're the 30 centimeter steel, massive cast steel
Yep.
tent pegs from Snow Peak, and my tent survived because of those, because they are serious tent pegs that held onto the earth.
Yeah, yeah. I think going in that far is just always a good thing. The Robans, which have the V-shape steel tent pegs and normal just other ones didn't fare so well. It's the first time I've bent any of them. But yeah, I've got the Snow Peak ones. They're good for any ground. It was quite rocky, was the outcrop that we were on.
It was.
And you couldn't get in. You had to go in and quite steep angles with the pegs. So yeah, I think that's a learning for me. Get a better windbreak, because a windbreak will really save you. And make sure that it's something that you can guy out the top. Have spare guy line in your kit that should things like that happen, you can get your windbreak out, of which I do. I've got a very I have to say, I mean, it stayed up. It didn't rip or anything like that. It was all right in the end, but I'd have liked a bigger, larger one like you've got.
Yeah.
Your Quest Odyssey one that is the tallest windbreak that I've ever seen. But how robust was that? That just saved you, I think, as well.
I think it saved my tent. We used it earlier in the camp to kind of keep a bit of breeze away from the fire, so that you could comfortably sit around the fire. But actually, when the wind came in, totally got moved to upwind of the tent, and it protected the tent. It just saved the tent, really. I think without it, I'd have had some torn fabric. But what a great, absolutely brilliant windbreak that is, and it's not got a mark on it. It's not torn or anything. It's got massive rope tying it down. I did need some extra guy lines, and Daz had those and very kindly lent us those, and really got it pegged out. I mean, that properly saved my tent. Really saved my tent.
Yeah. I think that's the learning really is, with it being quite fresh for me, I'd probably take it was such a stressful day. I'd probably take my tent down and go move it to a sheltered bit.
Yeah.
We found some later on in the afternoon. But yeah, I'd be wary again. Camping it. Yeah, sometimes winds come along and you don't know. If I knew it was going to be windy and like that, I'd be really in a sheltered space. As I've said before, mainly on campsites. And therefore, I tend to go to either the corners or where there's some trees, so that takes a lot of the strength out of the tree, out of the wind.
Yeah. The challenge with the Robins is it's a box, isn't it? It's a cube
It's a
essentially.
box,
And
yeah.
yes, it's got a pitch roof, but essentially it's a box. And you did pitch it on the diamond. So you pitched it with the corner into where the worst of the wind was going to come from, which is pretty much the best you could have done.
Yeah.
And really that's a learning really for anybody else, that if you know the wind is coming, kind of try and angle your tent to be the least resistant to the wind. So my door for my 4 meter bell was the opposite side of where the wind was coming from, so that the wind could just move around my tent and then disappear. If you haven't got one of those, lovely semi geodesic tents, I was joking when we were there that I should have brought my North Face Big Fat Frog, because it's literally designed to sit in the wind and just let the wind glide over it. There's no way I can fit my tent stove in that.
New tent stove, Tim. That's the answer. You've seen those titanium that fold flat? That's what you need.
To be honest, it's got a little horn in it. It would probably go in it.
It'd do it, yeah.
Don't. You're going to make me spend more money.
But what an experience. And the following morning the wind got up again after having a very calm night, thankfully, where we could all relax. And what a nightmare would it have been if it had happened in 2 in the morning.
Totally. Yeah, we'd
have all just sat there and gone, we're going home tomorrow.
Yeah, we would have done. We'd have probably started pulling tents down in the middle of the night, and we'd have kicked in the car. So we were lucky in some respects, and as you said earlier, Daz's £100 TP tent, yet again has shown its worth. What an incredible
outstanding
tent. Yeah, he had to keep going around and putting those pegs back in because they were quite short pegs. But if you got better pegs with that tent is bomb proof, and that's £100 well spent.
Yeah, it really, really is. Incredible. That's so much a brilliant tent. And yeah, he's loving it. He is.
He's living life's dream there. Wasn't sure about his Yeti box though. I'm not sure that's original.
Yes. Did you see my comment? I think it's called confetti, which is the fake Yeti.
Absolutely. Oh gosh. No, we're laughing about it now, but genuinely, I think you can hear it in our voices from earlier on. It was quite a worrying time, and we've got a lot of expensive gear. You kind of thought some of it was going to get trashed. You're never sure if someone's going to get hurt when the weather goes bad like that. But, everybody was all right.
Yeah.
I think
my kitchen went over twice.
Yeah.
Hot water on everything. And that was just the walls billowing against the back of it that pushed it over. And then I pegged it down and it still bloody went.
Yeah. I had the same in my tent. It knocked a lot of water over as the sides just billowed so far in. It just knocked everything. We had to literally drag everything into the middle of the tent to stop the sides knocking it all over. We've got videos. We will put them all on our socials. So come and find it this week, and there'll be stuff on there. But
what a learning thing, for us. No matter how many years you've been doing this, those things still happen, that you get a curveball out of nowhere that just says, right, going to teach you something. So
Yeah.
You know,
We,
it'll
we,
happen again. You and I, we know this. It's about not letting it spoil the experience. We survived it with very little damage. So, Ade's going to get his sewing machine out and get that Robin's tent back up and running quick, sharpish.
it's a beautiful tent. And considering it's a cube, it's just a box. Actually, one torn off tie, I think you're really lucky, really.
Ah,
I think the
yeah, I think
rest of
I
it
am.
is it's a pretty well made tent that it stood up to what it did. And to be honest, the wind turned a little bit, and your tent protected mine a little bit.
I think the other thing to say is because my tent stove got twisted and almost fell over because the tarp came off. I then had to take the stove out. I thought
Mm,
I'm going to put that back in the car because I'm not going to use that tonight. That's going to be really a worry. So
yeah.
I then took the rubber seal off and put the plate in so that I didn't have any holes in the top of my tent. Um, and yeah, so I've now got to undo all of that. But yeah, another silver lining. I got to play with that a little bit more. So
Yeah, yeah, and actually, I did think I need to get one of those plates. So it's kind of taught me I need to get one of those. I what happened to my stove? Because my stove's the small Nomad. You've got the
mm,
medium. And actually, my stove inside the tent, even with just the tent billowing and moving around, my stove was literally being lifted off the ground and moved around. So
wow.
I went and got a massive stone because there was loads of stones there, huge stone, and just sat it on top of my stove just to anchor it down. And
Mm,
and then actually I did not that night because it was too windy and a bit wild, and we just kind of went. Oh no, it was a bit. It was all right that night. Yeah. I didn't like the tent stuff when I was really drunk because that would have been a stupid thing to do. So the night when the wind actually died down, I did light the tent stove. And having that massive rock on it was a great big huge thermal mass, and it's the first time I've done that by putting rocks on it. I've seen it on people's videos, but
yeah.
it was a massive thermal mass, and it stayed warm for ages after the fire went out. So it was taught me something there. I will stick a massive rock on top of my stove from now on.
Yeah. Come on, Winnow. You can brand something up and put that on there.
They do a cage. They do a cage that you can fill with rocks that hang. Can't do it for the small one, but it goes up the pipe, and so
Yes.
it's like a
Yeah.
wire
Yeah.
cage
For
that
a
you can.
sauna. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's also just a thermal mass that if you just didn't want to pour water on it, you could just use it to
Yeah.
warm up your tent more. But yeah,
And you can peg down tent stoves, they've both got holes in the legs so that you can actually peg them down, but not when you've got a tent flooring.
no, no, or a
Yeah.
footprint. It's
Yeah.
what you can do is you can peg out the stovepipe, which again I got some clips for it, some metal clips for it, some sort of S clips that I've got which live in the stove bag, but I hadn't bought enough guy rope to actually tie that down. So again, stupid me, I need to make sure that in my kit box there's a load of extra pieces of guy rope because
Yeah.
really needed as much as we could lay our hands on to tie everything down. But we
Yeah, but
survived.
then the other worry for me, because I know we said this and I said it in the bits of recording about that, but the other worry that I've then sort of worried is my tent was flapping so much that if that stove is solid and wherever it is, you've then got this sort of rubber seal between the fabric and the stovepipe that's then going to be pulling.
Yeah,
And there's
true.
screws through that. So,
Yeah.
you're fixing one thing, but you may be causing another. Who knows? I don't want to be going through it for quite some time, Tim.
No, no,
I
me
want some
neither.
nice, easy camping this weekend.
You're going again, aren't you? Not to the
I
same
am.
place, but you are going camping again. Lucky
Yeah,
boy.
going to what looks like a lovely site in Worcestershire with some other friends. And yeah, going to take the swag, roll it out
Oh,
quick and easy.
no,
That's what I'm after.
fast and light, quick and dirty. That's
Yeah.
you all over.
Yeah. I tell you what, Ade's turned a new leaf. I got a shower every day at the place. Every day. Even on the day we were going home.
I tell you what, that was a lovely shower, wasn't it?
It was a lovely shower, yeah.
That was not that we showered together. Sorry, I mean the shower itself.
Oh,
not that we were
God.
showering. We're close, but we're not that close.
And on that bombshell,
Oh,
I think we
gosh.
better leave our listeners to some sounds of some wind.
Welcome to the Casual Camping Minute Mindfulness. Let the sounds of nature take you back to the camping field.
Scary wind, people.
It
Scary
was like I'm
wind.
back there, Tim. I was having flashbacks.
You got PTSD.
Yeah, I said flashbacks, not splashbacks. We weren't showering.
Oh God. Oh dear. No, it was an epic time, and it's taught us an awful lot. I hope listeners have enjoyed being live in the field for certainly part of this, and then maybe learning a little bit of something from our mistakes and what we've learnt in the second half. But gosh, let's hope, like you say, we don't repeat it for a long time to come.
Yeah, it's like a horrible plane journey that stays with you forever, makes you nervous for the next few plane journeys. I will be nervous when the wind gets up, but yeah, hopefully we'll be beyond it and get some nice, smooth sailing.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree. So I suppose it just leaves us with some of the usual stuff of, find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're across the socials. If you're, whatever download service or podcast service you're listening to us on, just take 2 seconds to give us 5 stars, because it really helps us get seen by more people. And if you get in touch with us on the socials, we'll give you a shout out.
Yeah. Subscribe, people, follow, like, all of those things helps us tremendously. And, keep on listening.
Casual Camping Podcast accepts no liability and does not officially recommend any products or endorse any techniques discussed in an individual podcast episode or shown on Casual Camping Podcast social media accounts. Individuals should make their own informed decision and risk assessment of any products or advice prior to any purchase or use.